Alice Brooks, cinematographer for Wicked. You worked with John Chu on In the Heights. So when did he first bring Wicked to you?
We first started talking about Wicked while he was cutting In the Heights. So he said to me, I think this is going to be our next project, and which was thrilling and exciting. And Wicked was my first non-indie movie. I mean, sorry, In the Heights was my first non-indie movie. And um, so so it was pretty exciting.
hmm so what was John's vision for the film and the visual language? And obviously just having like the such a beloved, well-known IP to work with too. Like you want to get this right. So what were your discussions like about the film?
We started talking early on about themes and visual language and goals. We, John is a complete emotional storyteller. His goal is to tell a story through emotion, and he wants an environment that supports that. And so we first we discussed goals, and my first he asked me what my goals were, and I said that it would be the greatest love story ever told between these two women, these two best friends. And so we started that as sort of the place of making all our decisions. And then we made a huge list of different visual languages because in Wicked there it's so many different stories and environments, and we go from the brightest of bright to the darkest of dark, and we are hugely epic and want to see the world of Oz, but at the heart of the movie it's really about these two women, and so the close-ups to us were everything.
hmm I the color palettes. I mean, knowing you have to incorporate colors like green and pink. How did that affect how you were going to shoot it, and the lighting and the softness or the edginess, I guess you would use to light everything.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted a romantic classic Hollywood look. We wanted to make an old fashioned movie like Casablanca, or I mean, in terms of the love story, or something like Gone with the Wind, or The English Patient, in terms of like these great love stories. But so there is a romantic quality to it and a softness to the whole film. Um, but sorry, I forgot your question as I started.
Just like knowing you have to
Oh,
work
the
with like
color,
green and pink. Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
then, so in L. Frank Baum's original books, there is a color description in almost every paragraph. Color is the language of Oz. And so, yes, we have green and pink, but there's a whole world of colors. It's the whole rainbow. And, but we started testing very early on. I think we had 18 weeks of prep. And during that period of time, we would do lighting tests, camera tests once a week. And we would I wanted early on, I said to the gaffer, I really would like to use every color of the rainbow to light throughout the movie. And so we'd start to test, like, what is pink in our movie, and what is blue in our movie, and what is green, and what is yellow. And so, for instance, the Ozdas ballroom, that was one of the earliest color tests we did. And the set is built out of clear resin, so I could have made it any color I wanted to. And so we had endless possibilities. So, but I started looking at the costumes for Shiz, and at one point there was a piece of blue, like this tealy blue fabric put over our stand-in, who was in green makeup. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, the green and the blue look quite beautiful together. And then we put it on Cynthia, and suddenly I was like, oh, the Ozdust is the heart of the movie. This is where they fall in love with each other. This is where they connect and finally can see each other. And so I wanted Cynthia to look the most beautiful that she had ever looked. And I felt like the blue surrounding her would do that. And so we had a 4x4 piece of resin wall, and we were testing different colors on, and and then to find that blue took quite a long time. And we actually pre-lit that set, I think, over the course of 4 weekends, just slowly dialing in the right blue. I mean, just little teeny increments. It was pretty fun.
That's incredible. I also love the way you guys use light in the film, and the way that like the use of the sun, I guess specifically, like in the way it rises for Glinda, like the whole popular sequence, like that's it's morning, and then when we finally get to the Emerald City and meet Oz and everything, and the sun is setting for Elphaba, and we get to define gravity, and it's about to get dark. So what was it like lighting those sequences for each of them like that?
So I had this idea during prep that this, well, first, let me backtrack. That John and I had this discussion about themes, and it was that the dark is not dark and light is not light, good is not good, and evil is not evil in our movie. So what we perceive as good is simply not good, and evil is not evil. So in that idea, I started to think about time of day when things happen. And I had this idea where the sun would always rise for Glinda and set for Elphaba. And I and there's two parts to this movie, and I play with this throughout part two as well. But in part one, we meet Glinda in Munchkin Land as the sun is rising behind her in her bubble. It's morning, and then she meets Fiero in the morning, and Elphaba meets Fiero in the night, and Elphaba has this long scene before I'm Not That Girl, where the sun is setting for her as where right through I'm Not That Girl, and in Popular, the sun rises for Glinda, and the sunrise for Glinda was the first one we did. That was our second week of shooting the film out of we shot 155 days, so it was day 5, 6, and so we had tested all different pinks for her sunrise, and the scene starts in after the Oz desk, very late at night, very intimate with these two girls just talking and having fun together. And then we end up going into Popular, and the sun is rising throughout the entire sequence. And then for Elphaba, we also had to change that time of day in the script. I asked John if it would be okay to suggest times of day. And so we ended up shooting Wizamania during, that was a huge backlot set. It was the size of 4 American football fields outside. So we had to be able to control the light because of this idea of the sun setting. So we shot night for evenings all night long, and we put dinos all around that became our sun source, zigzagging off of buildings. And then they go through the Emerald Palace, they meet the wizard, and then they rise in this big balloon chase where the sun's just very low in the sky. And then they get to this very dark, cavernous space where everything is really awful. It is Elphaba's lowest point, where they're saying she is the Wicked Witch. It's the first announcement of her being the Wicked Witch. And she starts to rise up these stairs. And when she rises up the stairs, there is Oz, and the sun is just dropping. And I found this picture of what I wanted the sunset to look like. And I printed it out big on my wall. I showed it to everyone. I'm like, this is what the end of our movie looks like. And it is exactly what I dreamed of. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's so thrilling. It's like when it just gradually gets dark, and it's like evolving her, and she processes everything with like who the wizard is. So it's really well
It's a
done.
40-minute sunset,
Yeah,
and the
a
lighting.
very long sunset.
Yeah, I mean, we took nature as our. I wanted to make a theatrical movie, still paying tribute to the stage show, and so the sun became our spotlight, and that was part of the idea too, and that was nature is a massive theme in our movie, and so when I realized the sun could be our spotlight and moving the sun could be all our lighting cues, and I think in the movie we've got something like 7,000 lighting cues.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned before that the set was the size of 4 American football fields, and you really see that in the film. I feel like you get the scope and the scale of all the sets that you guys had. I think you guys had 17 sets, right?
We had 17 interior sets,
Okay.
and then we had 4 additional backlot sets, and then we shot location work too. So it was
So
pretty.
what was it like getting all of that like in camera, like in frame?
I mean, it was amazing because people don't build these kind of sets anymore. They rely on blue screen and volumes, but I had stages that where the set went from fire lane to fire lane and from the floor to the reds. And so when you look at the throne room and you see and you see all these layers of ceiling. We had to rig lights in there before the ceiling was put in because there was no room to work above because that it went all the way to the ceiling, and I think it's like 18 rows or something of ceiling. And it was I looked at our library set, which is massive. I think it was 185 feet long by 145 feet, and I had 495 lights on that set. So it was it it's I feel very grateful that I got to shoot in on real sets and light real sets, and everything was tangible, and I could be inspired by the set design, and John and I could move the camera 360 degrees. And that is another visual theme. We move the camera 360 degrees throughout the movie.
Which one was your favorite set to work on?
Oh my gosh, there are so many amazing sets. I really love the lower attic into the upper attic. That I think that was two different sets, because there's this huge big staircase that takes us all the way up for defying gravity. So I think those two sets I love because I could play really, really dark in the bottom and then come out into this brightness, and then the whole scene just starts to get dark. It's a 40-minute sunset from Wizamania to the end of the movie.
Well, Alice, it was great speaking with you. Can't wait for part two next year.
Yep.
And you get to stay on because everyone's coming back.
Okay, great.